Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of Let's Talk Chelsea, reacting to the news Chelsea fans have wanted for so long. We knew this was going to happen pretty much since last week. It's just been awaiting official confirmation, but we finally have it from Chelsea. Todd Boehly / Clearlake, the consortium, have bought Chelsea from Roman Abramovich. The sale is complete, the takeover is done, and Chelsea's new era can begin. As I said last week when we found out about government approval, just relief, absolutely, in terms of where we were on March the 10th, wasn't it? Or early March when those sanctions hit and the months of uncertainty and concern. Even though this takeover process in the history books will look like a pretty swift one that has ended with 4.25 billion being spent on Chelsea Football Club, a historic sort of number for a takeover of a football club. And we've got the preferred, I personally have got the preferred bidder that I've wanted since pretty early. And we hope now Chelsea are going to move in a positive direction, a sustainable direction, the hope of sort of supporter involvement and transparency and all of that good stuff that you'd hope would come with this. It's just that relief of stability. I mean, Chelsea have kind of officially cut it a little bit short with the license that expired tomorrow, but obviously we knew this was going to happen, and it's interesting the way they've announced it. No video or sort of photos yet of Boehly. Obviously we've seen so much of him publicly, so maybe it's not that quite necessary. I am interested to see in the days to come whether Chelsea release sort of an interview of Todd Boehly, because he's been so sort of forthcoming about, people have been taking photos of him in and around Stamford Bridge. We've seen him do interviews before taking over Chelsea. He's not the type of guy, unlike Roman Abramovich, to kind of stay away from the camera. He doesn't strike me as someone who will be in front of the camera all the time, but he quite clearly is going to be the face of this sort of consortium, and it will be interesting to hear from him. We have heard from him in written form today, from his first words as one of Chelsea's new owners, but really good. And obviously the first statement was from the board of directors, which kind of broke down the last 3 months, kind of the takeover process, which was quite interesting. Definitely links in the description box below. Please go and read them. I mean, I don't think any of that sort of first statement is groundbreaking in terms of the information that we've known about for 3 months, and if you're a Chelsea fan who's been tracking this for 3 months, a lot of it in regards to from the sanctions, from then sort of the preferred bidders or the takeover process with Rain involved, and then finding that preferred bidder in Todd Boehly's consortium, and then where we are now in that agreement that was reached at the beginning of May, and government approval, Premier League approval, and now the official confirmation. A lot of that stuff has kind of been in the public domain, given how quickly Chelsea have had to get this takeover over the line before the license expired. But at the same time, it was great to hear from Todd Boehly, just reading out his quotes here. "We are honoured to become the new custodians of Chelsea Football Club," said Boehly. "We're all in 100% every minute of every match. Our vision as owners is clear. We want to make the fans proud, along with commitment to developing the youth squad and acquiring the best talent. Our plan of action is to invest in the club for the long term and build on Chelsea's remarkable history of success. I personally want to thank ministers and officials in the British government and the Premier League for all of their work for making this happen." So listen, there it is, and I think there's obviously going to be a lot happening. I believe the government have now released a statement on the Chelsea takeover. We'd like to think that those things, like the club shop opening, employees who were let go or sent home basically when the sanctions hit, are now brought back basically into the club, their future secured, season tickets sorted out, just all corners of the club basically, the sponsorship, and of course, as we discussed on this channel a lot over the past week, transfers, improving the first team squad. You'd like to think a lot of those meetings and deals, particularly for a player like Jules Koundé, can start to now really move forward once because these sanctions have now been lifted and Chelsea can get involved in the game officially, because the club has basically been on pause. And as I was saying just in a stream that I recorded for Football London, this is a lot of the big news I've discussed on this channel in recent years, or we just, as football fans, you do in terms of a big player signing or a coach being sacked, a coach being appointed, whatever it is. Those things feel big within a season, or like a big win, and we talk about symbolically what it means to a club, a win, a loss, whatever it is. This is one of those moments in Chelsea history that just impacts every single thing in the club. I mean, there isn't really anything that this does not touch in terms of just literally everything. And I think in terms of the men's team, the women's team, the academy, the business side of things, Stamford Bridge, potential redevelopment, the involvement of supporters, financially, the direction of the club, every single thing you could think about. And that's all been so uncertain for the past 3 months, which has made it difficult to cover and talk about the club, particularly as that's my job now. It has been challenging, but the relief of it being done, I think, is so nice to kind of have that weight lifted, I think, over all of us, because back in March, I think it's easy to forget now, because listen, I think very quickly we realised that Chelsea were going to be bought for a lot of money. There were so many people involved. I mean, that was one of the things that was mentioned sort of officially by the club, was the amount of interested parties. The amount of interested parties kind of shows you the value of Chelsea and what it's been built up to under Roman Abramovich since 2003. And there was a lot of people making claims that when, I think it was around the time Roman got sanctioned, that Chelsea are going to be lucky to get 2 billion in this deal. But now we've gone up to 4 billion, and what that could mean for sort of Stamford Bridge in the future, and the club, and what the first team squad under Thomas Tuchel can look like, what the women's team is going to look like moving forward. Happy days. I guess we could talk a little bit more about, say, some of the transfer news that has come out in recent days. I found it really interesting today. Simon Johnson released a piece on The Athletic, which was a massive deep dive of a lot of areas of the squad. I think he kind of just touched on every single area of the squad and potential transfers, incomings, outgoings. We got some new names, not new names to us, but new names in terms of being linked to Chelsea. Lautaro Martinez from Inter Milan, that was an interesting one. Achraf Hakimi, we've seen reports that he's apparently unhappy at PSG. Of course, there was a brief period this time last year when it looked like Chelsea could actually sign Hakimi. That obviously didn't happen, but he's been mentioned as potentially an investment this summer. Other names like Ousmane Dembele, who's a personal kind of favourite of mine. The more obvious ones like Jules Koundé, the potential of Levi Colwill returning, who of course was in the playoff final yesterday. I think tomorrow's news video, I'll more get in depth on these things, because I think just my feeling is that because this is now official, I think a lot more announcements are going to be made. I think there's going to be more news coming out. I think more concrete links to players, because action can actually take place. A lot of it is speculation and kind of hearsay in terms of, are Chelsea able to do anything? They really haven't been, but now they can. You'd like to think those movements in the transfer window where Chelsea need to rebuild the squad under Thomas Tuchel can be done, can be made, and it's going to be an exciting few months for Chelsea. I think on the off-season, it's going to be one of the most interesting and event-filled off-seasons Chelsea are ever going to have. So I don't think by the time we reach pre-season in July, we're going to be totally bored. I think there is going to be a lot of stuff, incomings, outgoings, new kits, sponsorships, a lot of stuff to come. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the new era, which begins today at Stamford Bridge under Todd Boehly and his consortium, Clear Lake, all of that good stuff in the comments below. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again very soon. All the best.